My name is Emily Ross. I'm 35 years old, single, and living alone in a modest three-bedroom house on the edge of Denver's quieter southern suburbs. For the past 12 years, I've worked as a freelance interior designer by day and a barista by night, skipping vacations, ignoring trends, and declining more invitations than I can count. My life isn't flashy, but it's mine, every corner of it earned the hard way. And this house, this simple little house with faded green siding and a sun-faded mailbox, is the physical proof that I stayed the course when it would have been easier to fall in line or fall apart. The house sits a little off Chestnut Avenue, not far from a local park with a small patch of lawn that I mow myself, and a backyard just big enough for a herb garden and a folding chair. There's nothing luxurious about it, no crown molding, no granite counters, but it's stable. The hardwood floors still carry the scuffs from when I first moved in, dragging boxes across the planks after a closing appointment that nearly made me cry from exhaustion. I never fixed the scratches. They remind me that I did this without help, not because I was proud, but because help was never really an option. Each morning follows a quiet rhythm. I wake early sometimes before the sun and make coffee always in the same navy blue mug chipped at the handle. I set it on the handmade table I built from reclaimed wood I found during a renovation job in Wheat Ridge. Jazz plays low in the background, drifting from an old speaker I bought during college. The light through the kitchen window is gentle golden in the fall silver in the winter. And in the stillness, I sit. Alone, yes, but never lonely. There is a difference one I've come to appreciate more with each year that passes. On the far wall of the kitchen hangs a framed painting my mother gave me during her brief, softer years. A mountain landscape done in muted watercolors, a style she never really mastered but poured herself into anyway. I hung it the day I moved in before the sofa was delivered, before the light fixtures were wired. It anchors the room in something personal, something rooted. Even when our relationship thinned to formalities, I never took it down. I never planned to live a loud life. I never chased big headlines or dreamt of weddings or watched the clock tick toward family holidays with anticipation. I just wanted a place to land, a space to breathe. And after years of grind and quiet discipline, I carved one out of the chaos I grew up in. I told myself I'd give it a few years, let the silence settle into comfort. Maybe learn how to rest. But nothing in my family stays untouched for long. The call comes just after 9 on a Tuesday. My phone lights up with a name I haven't seen on the screen in months, Jenna. My younger sister. I hesitate, fingers hovering over the screen, coffee still warm beside me. We aren't estranged, not exactly, but we aren't close. Our conversations have been few and short, mostly digital, mostly empty. Still, something in my chest tugs a mix of habit and hesitation. I answer. "Hey," I say, cautiously neutral. "M." Her voice cracks a little. Just hearing it takes me back, but not in a good way. She sounds breathless, like she's been crying or running. Or both. Sorry, I didn't know who else to call," she says quickly, a blur of words wrapped in panic. We're kind of in a situation." I set the mug down, already knowing. It's not intuition, it's pattern. Jenna and her husband Tyler had sold their house in Arizona 3 months ago. "We're chasing freedom," she'd said during our last conversation during one of her rare glowing check-ins. They were going to live on the road for a year, one of those Instagram-fueled van life journeys where you homeschool the kids and journal about spiritual awakenings in national parks. I watched their stories from a distance. Photos of their children, Max age 7 and Lila 4, dancing barefoot by a beach in Oregon, doodling on chalkboards in campgrounds. Hashtags like "They're free to wander" and "Odd just living." I never commented. I didn't want to become the inevitable net they expected to catch them when the adventure dried up. Now Jenna's voice is shaking. "We thought the savings would last longer," she says. "But fuel is more than we budgeted. Airbnb rates are through the roof. Tyler's freelance work dried up and our cards are maxed. The kids are tired, Em. They're asking to go home, but we don't have one anymore." She doesn't pause to ask how I'm doing. She doesn't ask if it's a good time. "Can we stay with you?" she finally says, her voice soft, pleading. "Just for a few months, just until we get back on our feet." I stare out the window. My garden is half-dead brittle from an early frost, but I can see the way the morning light curls over the edge of the shed. The air inside my house is still warm from the heater I set on a timer. I think about the way the hallway feels at night, silent and settled, and I know deep down, I know that letting them in means all of that vanishes. I don't answer right away. She fills the silence. We'd stay out of your way. We could make it work. I know you have extra rooms. I swallow hard. It's true, I do have 3 bedrooms. One is my office, one is storage. But more than space, it's about what this place represents. It's the only space in my life where I've ever felt safe uninterrupted. How long is a few months, I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know. Maybe 10, she says. Then quickly adds it won't be forever, just until we regroup. Regroup, it's a gentle word for collapse. The image forms in my mind, suitcases by the door toys, scattered on the hardwood, the sound of Tyler's late-night pacing. I love my niece and nephew. I do. But I've seen this pattern before. It starts with just a while and ends with a year gone and resentment festering like mold behind drywall. I'll think about it, I tell her. Please, Em, she says again. It's just until we figure things out. We hang up a few minutes later. I don't say yes. I don't say no. I say nothing concrete because anything solid feels like surrender. I finish my coffee in silence. The painting on the wall looks more faded than it did yesterday. I know it's the same. I'm the one who's changed. Or maybe I'm just seeing clearly for the first time in a long while. I clean the mug wipe down the counter and turn off the speaker. The house returns to its natural hum, quiet, structured mine. But something lingers now. A shift. A shadow. I don't know it yet, but that phone call isn't the end of a crisis. It's the first knock at a door I swore I'd never open again. And this time I have everything to lose. I sit at the kitchen table long after the call ends my coffee now, cold the sun higher through the window, but somehow casting less warmth. My hand hovers over the rim of the mug like it might still offer comfort. It doesn't. I stare at my budget spreadsheet open on my laptop, clean lines, neat columns, numbers that tell a story no one else ever bothered to read. I've lived within those lines for years, not because I had to, but because structure was the only thing that ever gave me peace. Growing up, Jenna was always the one with a flair for chaos. She wore mismatched socks and dyed the ends of her hair with food coloring when she was 13. My parents thought it was adorable. She's just so spirited, my mom used to say. Let her express herself. When I wore pressed shirts and made lists in spiral notebooks, I was told not to be so rigid. You're too serious for your age, Em. My dad once joked ruffling my hair as if trying to shake the order out of me. Jenna's impulsiveness was celebrated. My reliability was taken for granted. In college, the pattern widened. I worked 3 jobs: library assistant, weekend receptionist at a dental office, and cleaning houses during midterm breaks. Jenna floated from major to major. She studied communications for a semester, then photography, then travel writing. She lived off allowances and loans, constantly switching apartments, sometimes couch surfing for weeks. When she skipped a semester to backpack through Europe, my parents threw her a bon voyage dinner. When I skipped a family barbecue to work overtime at the cafe, I was told I needed to loosen up and learn how to live. That history sits like a film over everything now. It dulls the brightness of the day, colors my thoughts before they form. I know how this ends. It always begins with Jenna's mistakes and ends with me being asked to make things whole again. I scroll through the spreadsheet and click open another tab, my emergency fund. It's solid. I can spare $2,000 without throwing anything off. I won't touch the home repair category. I won't touch the tax reserve. But I can offer this much. I text Jenna, I can send you $2,000 to help with a deposit. I also know a property manager who might have a short-term rental available. I stare at the screen, half expecting a thank you, maybe even relief. But the dots don't appear. No typing. Just silence. The phone rings a minute later. My sister again. I answer. That's it, she asks. Her voice isn't soft anymore. It's sharper, accusatory. Jenna. I begin choosing my words slowly. I want to help, but I can't offer my home. My space is small. I work from here. I have a routine that... You have 3 bedrooms, she cuts in, and you live alone. We're sleeping in a Van M, at gas stations. Max had a fever last night. I close my eyes. I picture Mac's cheeks flushed, curled in the back seat of a cramped vehicle. I want to cry, but the thought of letting them in, of upending the life I built, fills me with something that feels too close to dread. I don't trust them not to extend a few months into a year. I don't trust that it will ever be temporary. I'm sorry, I say gently, but I have to protect my space. The silence that follows isn't still, it crackles. You really are heartless, she says finally, her voice trembling, but not from sadness. From rage. I haven't asked you for anything in years. And this one time. I offered money, I say sharper now. I offered resources. But I can't undo all your choices just because you've reached the edge. She hangs up. For a moment, the house is unbearably quiet. No jazz, no kettle, just my own breath and the distant hum of the heater. I pull my hands into my sleeves and stare out the window again. My mother's painting seems more muted today. The phone rings again. This time it's my mother. I already know what she's going to say. Still, I answer. Emily, she says without greeting, are you really going to let your sister and the kids sleep in a car? I offered help, I reply, but I can't let 4 people live here indefinitely. You know my work setup. You know how I live. She exhales slowly, the kind of sigh that sounds rehearsed. You've changed. Since getting that house, you've become. She pauses. Cold. I grit my teeth. Or maybe I've stopped apologizing for needing peace. She's your sister, she says, voice turning soft like I'm a child being corrected gently. She's struggling. You live alone. That line again, like solitude is a crime. I built this life so I wouldn't have to depend on anyone. And I don't expect anyone to depend on me like I'm a safety net. You always do this, calculate everything. Your sister lives from the heart. And look where that got her, I say, before I can stop myself. There's a beat of silence, then her voice changes. Cold, clipped. One day you'll need someone, Emily, and when that day comes, don't expect the same door to open for you. She hangs up. I stare at the phone, its screen fading to black in my palm. I leave it there on the table next to the chipped bowl I've had since my first apartment. I bought it at a thrift store during my first year out of college. It's just wide enough for oatmeal and soup and silence. The next day, my father calls. His tone is more direct, less emotionally entangled. You're living in a 3-bedroom house alone, he says flatly. And your sister's family is on the street. They're not on the street, I reply. They've been staying in Airbnbs. They chose this. I didn't push them into it. They need stability, he insists. You can offer it. What's the big deal? It's 10 months. 10 months is nearly a year, I say, and it's my life. He sighs. When you first graduated, didn't Jenna let you crash on her couch? Yes, I say, for 3 weeks, and I paid rent. You're always so proud of doing things alone, but when you fall... If I fall, I say cutting in, I'll fall on my own terms. He doesn't reply right away. Then he says, don't be surprised when no one catches you. He hangs up. I sit back in my chair, arms folded, gaze fixed on the wall. My phone lights up again, Jenna's name. I don't answer. The message pops up anyway. You'll regret this. We all see who you are now. I let the screen go dark. My house is still. My table is clean. The coffee is warm again. But the air has shifted. I didn't set out to draw a line. But I'm realizing now I've been standing on it all along. The soil is softer than I expect this morning. I press my hand into it, planting basil seeds in the raised garden bed near the fence. The sun is just beginning to clear the tops of the houses across the alley, casting pale gold lines over the yard. I'm still wearing my sweatshirt from last night, and my hair is pulled into a loose braid that I'll probably redo after lunch. This kind of morning, the quiet hum of a suburban neighborhood still asleep, the rhythm of doing something simple and slow, is why I bought this house. It's the kind of peace I never had growing up, and I've protected it like a living thing. I brush dirt from my palms and head back toward the porch, leaving the gloves by the railing. My coffee sits cooling on the step, the cup a bit too full, a little too forgotten. That's when I hear it, the knock. 3 sharp raps at the front door. I pause, then slowly walk inside, wiping my hands on a towel draped over the kitchen chair. I'm not expecting anyone. I don't order deliveries this early, and the mail won't come for another 2 hours. The second knock follows firmer. I cross the living room and glance through the peephole. Jenna. And not just Jenna. She's standing on the porch with Marcus, who's holding 2 roller suitcases. Max is slouched against the railing, backpack on his shoulders, while Lila leans against her mother's hip, clinging to a worn, gray, stuffed animal. I stare for a moment, stunned, not surprised, just stunned at the audacity. When I open the door, Jenna smiles like this is completely normal. "Morning," she says, cheerful, almost breezy. "We were in the neighborhood and thought we could stop by, just to talk." I blink at her. "You brought luggage." Jenna laughs a little. "Well, yeah, we've been staying at that motel on 32nd. It was awful. Thought we could stretch out here for a few hours while we figure things out." Marcus says nothing. He lifts the suitcase onto the porch like he's done this before. "I didn't agree to this," I say, my voice low. "We know," Jenna replies, brushing Lila's hair from her face. "That's why we didn't come to fight. Just to talk. Maybe have some water, sit down. You know, sister to sister." The kids don't say anything. Lila looks tired, her eyes puffy, her nose red. Max won't even meet my gaze. I step aside, not because I'm welcoming them, but because it's the only way to keep this from becoming a scene on the front lawn. Jenna breezes past me into the living room like she's walked this hallway 100 times. Marcus follows. The kids shuffle behind, leaving a faint trail of dust and fabric softener in the air. The suitcases sit in the entryway. I don't touch them. I don't even look at them. Jenna plops onto the couch, pulling Lila onto her lap. "Okay," she says, exhaling dramatically. "We've been thinking. 10 months. That's all we need. Tyler can pick up some delivery gigs. I can homeschool the kids in your spare room. We'll clean up after ourselves. You won't even know we're here." My eyes flick to the kitchen counter where a glass of water from earlier this morning still sits untouched. I haven't even finished breakfast. And now my house feels like it's already full, like the walls are closing in. Marcus finally speaks. "I'll do all the yard work. Take care of the gutters, the garage, whatever you need." I don't answer right away. I sit on the edge of the chair near the window and let the light fall across my lap, watching dust shift in the air. The kids sit close, too quiet, too tense for a casual visit. So I ask, voice steady, what happens after 10 months. Jenna tilts her head. "We rent a place nearby, or maybe take one of those relocation flights to Arizona. Depends on the deals." I laugh under my breath. It's dry, flat. So even after all that time, the plan is still no plan. Jenna stiffens. "We're doing the best we can." "You sold your house with no backup," I say. "Spent the money on gas and motels. Now you're asking me to rearrange my life because you didn't plan for your own." "That's not fair," she snaps. "We made a choice to live free." "And now you want to live for free," I reply. The silence in the room thickens. Marcus picks at a thread on his sleeve. Lila starts to cry a soft whimper that pulls at my chest more than I want it to. Max's head stays low. Jenna stands. "You think you're better than us just because you bought a house." "No," I say quietly, but I know what it took to do it. "You're selfish," she spits. "You have more space than you need. You have this big, empty house, and you can't even open a door for your own family." My voice is calm, but I can feel the thrum under my skin. This house isn't empty. It's full of the life I built piece by piece. She glares at me. "You used to say family comes first." I said that before I realized family meant me carrying everyone else. Jenna steps closer, her voice low, almost a hiss. "You're going to regret this." "No," I say. "I already regret answering the door." She looks at me like I slapped her. I stand, walk to the suitcases, and point. "You have 10 minutes. Then I call a cab. Or the police. Whichever gets you out faster." Marcus lifts Lila and starts zipping one of the bags. Jenna just stares. "You've changed," she says, bitter. I nod, finally. She gathers Max and her purse and pushes past me, muttering something I don't bother to hear. Marcus doesn't look at me as he follows her out the door. I stand in the doorway, watching them walk down the path, dragging luggage across the sidewalk. The sun is higher now, bouncing off the porch railing, casting sharp shadows across the lawn. The door is still open. My hands grip the edge of it like I'm bracing myself against a storm, but the storm is already passing. Inside, the glass of water still waits on the counter, the dirt from my gloves now dry on the porch steps, the garden half planted. Everything is the same, and nothing is. I shut the door gently slowly. The click echoes through the house. Some people won't hear no until you let the silence say it for you. The first ping comes just after 6 a.m., jolting me from sleep before the sun even breaks through the curtains. I blink at the glowing screen, still groggy, expecting some spam alert or maybe a weather warning. Instead, it's a message from Lisa, a woman I used to work with at the firm 2 years ago. It just says, "Emily, is everything okay? I saw Jenna's post." My heart starts to beat faster, that familiar rush of adrenaline that shows up when you realize someone else has told your story before you even knew it was being shared. I sit up in bed, the phone warm in my hand. Notifications begin to stack: 4 missed texts, then 8, then 12. Mentions, tags, private messages from people I haven't spoken to in years. Some with concern, others masked in vague curiosity. My stomach tightens. I don't need to open the app to know Jenna has turned this into something else, something public. When I finally open Facebook, her post is at the top of my feed. A long block of text sits above a photo of Max and Lila curled under a blanket in what looks like the back seat of their van. Jenna captioned it, "Sometimes the person you once admired turns out to be the one who shuts the door when your children need a place to sleep. We didn't ask for much, just a little warmth, but not everyone understands family the same way." The comments are already flooding in, dozens of them, some from people I barely know, a few I went to school with, others from extended family, second cousins, old neighbors. One says, "I can't believe her sister would turn her back like that." Another reads, "What's the point of having a big house if you won't open it to your own blood?" My chest goes tight. I can't breathe for a moment. I scroll through more photo after photo of the kids' captions about resilience, strength, love. There's no mention of the $2,000 I sent, no mention of the real conversations we had, just Jenna's version, the one that paints her as desperate and me as cold. I don't comment. I don't post. I just close the app and stare at the ceiling. It's still early. The house is still quiet, but I know that silence is temporary now. By mid-morning, the texts start coming in waves. An old coworker writes, "Hey, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but are you okay?" A neighbor I barely know messages, "I hope you and your sister can find peace soon." The internet is a hard place to be vulnerable. My cousin, who didn't even come to my housewarming party, leaves a comment under Jenna's post. "Family means opening the door. Period." I want to scream. I want to defend myself, but I don't. Not yet. Instead, I get up, shower, and open the cabinet above my desk. I pull down the notebook where I keep track of financial transfers, my version of a paper trail. I flip through the pages. The $2,000 wired directly to Jenna's account. The emails offering to connect her with rental agencies. The list of contacts I sent. The messages where I tried to support her without giving up my entire life. I write down dates, times, amounts. Then I open my filing cabinet and take out printed screenshots. The text from Jenna the day after I said no. "You'll regret this. We all see who you really are now." The one from our mother. "Don't expect kindness when you're the one who closed the door." I build a folder. I don't call it revenge. I call it insurance. I don't want to be part of this digital circus, but I won't let my name be buried under their version of the truth. By nightfall, the post has nearly 200 likes. Jenna's friends, people who never met me, are chiming in with encouragement. "You're so strong. Your kids are lucky to have a mom who fights." One woman writes, "It's always the quiet ones who turn out to be selfish. I don't even know who she is." I sit at the kitchen table, phone charging beside me, laptop open. I scroll through everything one more time, then click to create a new post. It isn't long. I write plainly. No dramatic sentences, no photos. I wasn't planning to say anything, but since I've been mentioned publicly, I want to clarify a few things. I love my niece and nephew. I offered financial help, connected my sister to rental support, and sent money for a deposit. I didn't open my home to 4 people indefinitely, not because I don't care, but because I've worked 12 years to build a space I can breathe in, one that took sacrifice, structure, and solitude. I won't apologize for setting boundaries. I never slammed the door, I just refused to let someone else hold the key. I attached the screenshot of the $2,000 transfer, blurred out except for the amount and timestamp. I leave it at that. No hashtags, no photo of my living room, no victimhood. Within minutes, the first few comments appear. One says, "Thank you for sharing. Boundaries are love too." Another reads, "Sometimes the people who shout loudest about family are the ones who depended on your silence the most." Not everyone agrees. One woman comments, "Still sounds like you could have done more." I don't reply. I close the laptop and walk into the living room. The house feels quiet again, but different. Not untouched, just steadier. Like something was shaken and the dust is still settling. The phone vibrates again, Jenna's name lighting up the screen. I let it ring. It buzzes twice more before she sends a message. "You really humiliated me in front of everyone. Don't be surprised when they all turn on you." I don't respond. I save the message, add it to the folder. I know this won't be the end. People will pick sides. Some already have. But at least I told the truth. At least I didn't let someone else write me out of my own life. The house is dark now. I make a cup of tea and sit by the window, the screen of my phone still faintly glowing in the corner of the room. They called me cold. But maybe they forgot who kept them warm for so long. And maybe they're the ones who should explain that part, not me. The kettle clicks off with a low pop as I pour water into my mug, the tea bag drifting in slow amber swirls. I let it steep without stirring, the scent of peppermint rising steadily through the kitchen. It's still early, the sun not quite strong enough to spill fully across the counter. The house is quiet again, steady still. I haven't opened my laptop yet. I haven't checked for comments or messages. For the first time in days, I just want quiet. Then the phone rings. I glance down and see the name on the screen, Dad. The last time we spoke, he hung up on me. This time, I hesitate. The steam curls from the mug. I consider letting it go to voicemail, but I don't. I swipe to answer, raising the phone to my ear without saying hello. "Emily," he says, his tone clipped, "we need to talk." I rest one hand against the kitchen counter, the other holding the phone steady. "Okay," I say. His sigh is deliberate, practiced. "You should have kept this between family." I don't respond, not yet. "There was no reason to go public," he continues. "You could have picked up the phone. You didn't have to embarrass everyone." I look at the tea bag still bobbing slightly in the mug. I haven't taken a sip. "You mean I shouldn't have defended myself," I say evenly. He huffs. "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant." His silence lasts a beat too long. Then, "You've always been the one with a level head, the one who didn't make drama. Jenna's emotional. But you." I'm supposed to absorb it, I say, cutting him off. Because I'm stable. Because I don't ask for help. Because I live alone. "You made your sister look like a beggar," he says, voice tightening. "People are talking. The family's in shambles." "No," I say. "The family was already in shambles. It just looked neater when I was staying quiet." He doesn't like that. I can tell by the way he shifts, not in tone, but in phrasing. "You've always had this self-righteous streak," he says. "Always had to make a point." "I made a boundary," I correct. "That's not the same thing." He exhales again, longer this time. "Your mother's been crying for days. We can't sleep. Jenna's heartbroken. She says Max keeps asking why Aunt Emily doesn't love him." That one lands like a bruise. I close my eyes for a moment, breathing through it. "I do love Max," I say softly. "And Lila. But love doesn't mean letting chaos move in and stay rent-free." "It's not about money," he snaps. "No," I say. "It's about always expecting me to carry what no one else will." The silence that follows feels colder than any argument. Then his voice returns, calm, calculated. "You're choosing to stand alone right now. I hope you understand that. Because when you fall, Emily, no one's going to catch you." I nod, even though he can't see me. Then I guess it's a good thing I learned how to land. He doesn't reply, just ends the call. No goodbye, no click, just the abruptness of absence. I stare at the screen for a moment before locking the phone and setting it beside the mug I still haven't touched. The tea has gone cold. I walk down the hallway to the room I use as my office. The air in here always feels different, thicker with memory maybe. A file folder sits on the desk where I left it, labeled in my handwriting, "Family Contributions." Inside are printouts and notes from the last few years. Mortgage support I gave our parents after the roof leak. Money sent when Jenna wanted to take a certification course she never finished. Gift cards for groceries. Quiet help. Unthanked. I flip to the last page. It's a shared spreadsheet I created 2 years ago, our informal emergency fund. I kept the math. I reminded them of deposits. I never once asked where the withdrawals went. Now I scroll to my name and erase it. I delete the auto transfer. Then I delete the file entirely. Next, I open the group chat, our family text thread with the casual emojis and endless guilt. I scroll past the messages from last week. My mother, please think of the children. My father, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Jenna's silence wrapped in implication. I delete the thread. It's not dramatic, just necessary. I sit back in my chair and look around the room. The bookshelf against the wall holds a mix of design manuals and novels I never finished. My planner sits on the corner of the desk, Monday's page still blank. I finally take the mug from the kitchen and pour the cold tea down the drain. The peppermint scent lingers for a moment, stubborn before washing away. In the stillness, I think of all the ways people have misunderstood quiet. They assume it means agreement. That silence is submission. That someone who lives alone must be empty, waiting to be filled. But I know better now. I've filled this house with routine and resilience, with long evenings curled on the couch, not because I have no one, but because I chose not to be surrounded by people who only see me as useful when they need something. My father said no one would catch me, but they never have. Not when I was 18 and working nights to cover tuition. Not when Jenna crashed her car and I was the one who wired the insurance deductible. Not when Mom got sick and I handled the hospital forms because no one else wanted to read the fine print. They've mistaken my composure for indifference, my boundaries for cruelty. But the truth is, I've only now started to say no out loud. And the echo of it, clear and final, is louder than all their old expectations. I close my laptop, stack the folder back in the drawer, and lock it. Not out of spite, but because some doors once shut deserve to stay that way. Some memories don't fade, they sharpen. I'm sitting at the kitchen table again, this time in the early hours of the evening, the light slanting across the floor in long shadows. There's nothing particularly remarkable about the moment, no news alert, no family text, no new comment thread. But my mind drifts back as it does sometimes without permission. I'm not looking for pain, but it finds its way in slow and quiet, the kind of memory that doesn't need drama to hurt. Just a simple reminder of all the times I was told what I didn't need. When I was 9, Jenna got a Barbie dream house for her birthday. I remember it vividly: pink plastic stairs, tiny plastic chandeliers, the kind of gift every girl in our neighborhood wanted. That year, I got a set of hardcover notebooks, all with my name written in neat black marker on the inside cover. Because you love to write lists, my mom said with a smile like that made it better. She was right, I did, but it wasn't a gift, it was a function, a reinforcement of who I was allowed to be. At 10, Jenna lost a bracelet our grandmother had given her, a thin silver chain with a tiny charm shaped like a bird. I'd been near her that afternoon, sitting on the floor organizing my school binder. When she couldn't find it later, she cried to our mother, who turned to me and asked, "Did you take it?" I said no. I always said no, but they still searched my backpack. It turned up 2 days later under Jenna's bed. No apology, just a shrug and a new bracelet, this one from the mall. In high school, the patterns continued. Jenna was encouraged to try out for cheerleading theater debate, all of which she quit. Let her explore, my dad said. She's just finding her way. I was encouraged to take extra credits, graduate early, and apply to scholarships. I did all of it. I never complained. And every report card with straight A's got a nod, maybe a quiet good job. Jenna's C+ in history got her a celebratory dinner. When college came, the division became more obvious. Jenna was accepted to a private liberal arts school out east, and the tuition was high, more than our parents could comfortably afford. But they made it work. Loans, payment plans, even a small inheritance from my father's side. It's important to give her a strong start, they told me. She'll figure it out once she's settled. I got accepted to a state school just outside Denver. I applied for every grant I could find, picked up 2 jobs, and lived with 3 roommates in a 1-bedroom apartment for my first year. No one offered to help. When I asked if they could co-sign a small loan so I could drop one of my jobs and take on a heavier course load, my dad said, "You're the practical one. You've got this." I did, but it cost me things I can't explain to them. It cost me sleep friendships and whole months where I lived off canned soup and boxed rice. I didn't mind the work. What I minded was being treated like the one who could do without. The Christmas before I graduated, Jenna brought home a boyfriend she had met during a study abroad trip. Our parents threw a party. They put out real linens, ordered catered food, and toasted her at the table. That same night, I gave my mom an envelope with a copy of my final semester's tuition bill paid in full with my own money. She smiled and said, "That's great, Em. Now you can relax a little." I remember looking around the room watching my sister twirl under the chandelier, laughing at something her boyfriend whispered. I didn't feel envy. I felt invisible. Years later, the pattern didn't fade. It calcified. There was a family trip to Oregon for my parents' 35th anniversary. Jenna helped plan it, picked out the Airbnb, sent the invitations, made the group itinerary. Mine never came. When I asked about it, my mother said, "Oh, we figured you'd be working, and we didn't want you to feel pressured." I checked the guest list, later extended cousins, old family friends, even a neighbor from childhood. Not me. They sent a postcard. It arrived a week after they returned, signed, "Wish you'd been there." No return address. I tucked it into a drawer I haven't opened since. It took me longer than I care to admit to understand that I wasn't left out because they forgot. I was left out because I was expected to handle it. I was always the one who could take the silence, the exclusion, the burden. They'd say I was so mature, so self-sufficient, like those were badges of honor, but really they were expectations. They saw my silence as permission, my strength as convenience. Jenna was the one who needed support. I was the one who absorbed the weight. Even the smallest things followed that logic. When our grandmother passed, her jewelry was divided between us. Jenna got the sapphire ring, our grandmother's favorite. I got a paper folder with notes and recipes. "You'll appreciate these more," my mom said. Maybe she was right, but sometimes appreciation feels a lot like being handed the pieces and told to stay grateful for the glue. I still have that RSVP card, the one that never came. I found it months later when Jenna posted photos of the Oregon trip online. There were candids of her and our parents, everyone laughing by the cliffs, the ocean crashing in the background. I wasn't angry. I just sat at my desk, held the envelope I never received, and thought they didn't forget me. They assumed I'd understand. That was the day something shifted. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to make me wonder how long I'd been mistaking tolerance for love. Love isn't asking one person to bear the silence so another can have the stage. It isn't giving one child the applause and the other the cleanup. It isn't calling someone dependable while slowly erasing them from the photos, the plans, the stories. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's dependency in disguise. I rise from the table, the sun nearly gone now, just a dull glow behind the hills. The kitchen light casts long shadows, and I glance at the fridge where a family photo used to be. I took it down months ago, not in anger, but in clarity. I wasn't forgotten. I was expected to forget myself. And I won't do that anymore. The morning is cool, not quite cold, and the air carries that faint mix of damp soil and early sunlight. I sit on the back porch with my clay mug nestled in both hands, steam rising slowly from the surface. It's the same mug I bought the year I finally paid off my student loans. I keep it chipped and all, not because it's valuable, but because it reminds me of what I built quietly, patiently. The porch boards creak beneath my feet as I stretch my legs, letting the calm of the moment settle fully into my skin. I've stopped checking my phone first thing. These days, I wake up, open the window, and breathe. Then I make coffee always strong and step outside before anything else can get in. It's been a month since I posted the truth, a month since Jenna's message landed in my inbox like a rock through a window. Since then, nothing. Not a call, not a text. Just a single message from my father a week ago. "Hope you're well." I didn't respond. I don't need more half-formed sentences from people who only reach out when they want to say you were too much or you weren't enough. In that space, silence has returned, but not like before. This time it feels earned. I've spent these last few weeks restoring my routine, but also reinforcing it. I met with my attorney to set up a living trust for the house. Everything I own, the title, the bank account, even the land survey documents, is now in my name and protected. It's not just about ownership. It's about being prepared if the past ever decides to come knocking again. I've made sure the door won't open so easily. There's a folder in my locked cabinet now labeled "If They Try Again." Inside it is everything: screenshots, transaction logs, emails, text messages with timestamps. I'm not waiting for vindication. I already have it. But I've learned that the same people who once called you cold will one day claim they were misrepresented. So I keep records not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. My home feels different now. Not because the layout has changed or the walls have shifted, but because I've stopped bracing myself for interruption. The second bedroom is back to being my office, the space where I work in peace without the weight of other people's emergencies taking up square footage. The storage room is still full of boxes I haven't unpacked in years, but they're mine. There are no strollers at the door, no crying through the walls, no constant explanations for why I value quiet. I've changed my emergency contacts too. My closest friend Alicia now sits at the top of the list. She's the one who checked on me after everything unfolded. She didn't ask for details. She just showed up with Thai takeout and let me talk when I was ready. I added her number to my will. She doesn't know yet. Maybe she doesn't need to. But it felt right. She's proven herself safe. On my desk beside the lamp, I've placed a laminated copy of the house deed. Every time I see it, I feel steadier. Not proud in the loud way people often imagine, but proud in the way that feels like breath fully drawn and fully released. Like knowing that no one else has the power to name or reshape what I've built. I walk through my house now like it's a sanctuary. The scratched floorboards don't bother me. The mismatched kitchen tiles still make me smile. I've lit candles in the evenings again, jazz playing low while I read by the window. The chair fits my spine just right now. I'm no longer waiting to be invaded. I've reclaimed the silence. Last week I found the RSVP card from that family trip I was never invited to. I'd slipped it between the pages of a book, whether on purpose or by accident, I'm not sure. I held it in my hand for a while, then tucked it into the "If They Try Again" folder. Not as evidence, but as a bookmark in a chapter I've decided to close. There are still traces of the storm. I see the gaps in my social media feed: people who unfriended me without a word, others who watch my stories but never speak. I don't chase them. I don't explain. Let them make room for the silence they once found so threatening. I'm not in the business of restoring comfort to people who only liked me when I was giving more than I could afford. I've started journaling again. At night, after dinner, I sit by the window and write not just about the past, but about what I want next. Maybe a road trip through the Southwest. Maybe a new design project. Maybe nothing at all. Just quiet days and steady work and a kitchen full of natural light. There's no apology coming. I've stopped expecting one. No one's going to say we should have asked how you were doing. No one's going to admit that the weight they called love was really expectation. But I don't need them to. The beauty of this new silence is that it belongs to me, not as a void, but as a choice. And when people ask now, "Are you and your family speaking?" I say yes when necessary. And that's the truth. I haven't cut anyone off. I've just stopped offering unlimited access to someone who was never supposed to be permanent support. I finish my coffee and step back inside the screen door creaking shut behind me. I check the locks without thinking, habit more than fear. I've changed them all. Not because I expect someone to barge in again, but because I needed to remind myself boundaries aren't just emotional. They're physical, legal, tangible. They're keys that only I hold now. Later, I'll open my planner and map out next month's goals. Most of them are small: read 2 new books, try a new soup recipe, repaint the hallway. But one goal stands larger than the others: protect your peace. Not with defensiveness, not with isolation. With clarity. This isn't the kind of peace you wait for, it's the kind you make. And I plan to keep it, door locked, receipts saved, and no apologies left to write. The air on the trail is thinner than I remember, and quieter. The gravel crunches softly beneath my boots, the same path I used to hike during my 20s when I needed to think, or to breathe, or to be nowhere in particular. It's just outside of Boulder, tucked away from the busier routes and never crowded, especially on mornings like this, cool and dry with the sky the color of old porcelain. I haven't been here in years, but something told me to return, not to revisit exactly. More like to witness who I used to be now that I finally understand her. In my bag, I've brought a leather-bound journal I haven't opened since last spring, a blue pen, and a folded piece of paper that still smells faintly like my desk drawer. It's blank. It won't be for long. I take my time, pausing at a small ridge overlooking a field of golden grasses, just beginning to shift with the breeze. I find a flat rock at the edge of the overlook wide enough to sit on comfortably, and I settle in, stretching my legs out in front of me. The trail behind me winds backward like a soft echo, the hills gently folding into each other. I pull out the journal, open it across my lap, and begin to write, not to Jenna, not to my parents, not to the audience who watched our family fracture in real time, but to the version of myself who kept giving long after she should have stopped. Dear younger me, I begin. I know you tried. You tried to be the reliable one, the strong one, the one who never caused a scene. You thought if you were patient enough, responsible enough, quiet enough, someone would notice not your effort, but your exhaustion. And when they didn't, you told yourself maybe that was what love was supposed to feel like. Quiet, heavy, sacrificial. I pause to look out across the ridgeline, the sunlight catching a curve in the hills that makes the entire landscape glow. You learned early that love came with conditions, that affection was earned through utility, and that saying yes was easier than being misunderstood. You accepted imbalance not because you lacked courage, but because you thought holding the weight for others was how people stayed connected. You weren't selfish, you were scared that the moment you said no, everything would fall apart. And when it did, you believed it was your fault. A soft wind brushes my face and a leaf tumbles across the trail before resting at the base of a rock. But here's the truth. You were never wrong to want peace. You were never wrong to want your own room, your own silence, your own unshared breath. What they called selfishness was your boundary forming in real time. What they named coldness was your warmth pulled back into your own hands where it always belonged. I sit for a moment, breathing through the final lines before writing them. You don't owe your well-being to people who only notice you when you stop giving, and you don't have to explain why you stopped. I sign my name, just my first name, the only thing I've never handed away. I fold the letter and tuck it inside the back pocket of my journal. Before I leave, I pick up a small stone from the base of the overlook, smooth, flat, the kind that could rest neatly in a palm. I slip it into my coat pocket without thinking. The trail back to the car is all downhill. I don't rush it. I let my body move at the pace it wants to, not hurried, not dragged. Somewhere halfway down, I realize I'm smiling. Not wide, not performative, just the quiet kind that says I'm okay now. Not fixed, not finished, but no longer seeking proof from people who only ever saw me in pieces. At home, I kick off my boots and head straight to the entry table. The ceramic dish that holds my house key is still there, resting on the wood with a faint ring from years of use. I place the stone beside it. Then I walk into the bedroom, open the drawer on my nightstand, and place the letter inside. No ceremony, no lingering touch, just the knowing that it's there when I need to remember. I return to the living room, light a candle, and settle into the chair by the window. Outside, the branches sway gently. The world moves forward. But this house is still. My tea steams quietly in the kitchen. My shoes rest where I left them. Nothing screams for my attention. No one waits with accusations folded in concern. There is no apology waiting in my inbox, no surprise voicemail with an admission of guilt, but I'm not hoping for one. I'm not planning for reconciliation that requires me to shrink again. I'm just letting the silence stay whole. I've come to understand that healing doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks beside you in the shape of a returned routine, or a Sunday that ends without conflict, or a trail you hiked alone without needing someone to meet you at the end. Sometimes it looks like a locked front door and no one on the other side pressing for entry. This isn't the story where I forgive everyone and open the door wide. It's not the story where I become the hero or the villain. It's the one where I finally stop playing either role. The house creaks once as it settles into its frame, the way it always does after dusk. I turn off the lamp and let the dark rise gently around me. The key sits in its place. The letter is written, and the final line they didn't expect. I didn't shut them out. I just stopped opening the door to people who only ever knocked when they needed saving. Emily's story is not about dramatic revenge or loud confrontation. It's about the quiet, deliberate strength it takes to protect your peace when no one else will. She was the one who always gave, always understood, always stayed silent. Until she didn't. In choosing boundaries over approval, she reclaimed not just her space, but her sense of self-worth. Her independence was never cold, it was built from years of being unseen and still showing up. Sometimes the hardest thing is not holding on, but letting go of what was never mutual. And in that release, she found clarity. If you've ever been called selfish for choosing yourself or quiet for not playing along, this story is for you. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, share your own experience, or follow along for more stories of quiet courage and earned peace.